Sony is facing a $5 billion lawsuit. All right, guys, before we get into this, I have 4 months to hit my goal of 10,000 subscribers. I see a lot of you are new to this channel. If you are, please consider hitting that subscribe button if you enjoy this video. So it's been a rough month or so for PlayStation, for Sony, as the spotlight has really shined on them for how they are handling deals, what they're going to do with the Activision Blizzard deal when it goes through and Microsoft owns them and it becomes a part of the Xbox Games Studios. And recently, they are now facing a lawsuit for $5 billion for allegedly ripping off customers. Now, before we get into the current lawsuit, this is actually the second time in just over a month that PlayStation has been under the gun in terms of an anti-competitive lawsuit. The most recent one got dismissed back in July, and this suit alleged that due to the fact that Sony only sells digital copies of PlayStation games on the PlayStation Store, it had unlawfully monopolized the market. But like I said, it got thrown out. As they said here, they were unable to adequately prove that Sony violated the Sherman Act, an antitrust law which makes monopolization illegal. The judge specifically says here, the motion to dismiss is granted because plaintiffs have failed to allege adequately anti-competitive conduct under the Sherman Act, and the other claims are derivative of the Sherman Act claims. Although it is unclear at this time if the deficiencies may be cured, plaintiff is granted leave to amend, which basically just means that the plaintiffs can now refile an amended complaint if they want to continue to pursue this case. And with that one gone, another one has hit Sony, but this time it is in the UK, and they're being sued for about $5 billion, $5.9 billion. And they are claiming here from Alex Neil that Sony is in breach of the competitive law by demanding a cut of every purchase made on the PlayStation Store, and that players in the UK have been overcharged for digital purchases by $5.9 billion over the course of the last 6 years. Now, this lawsuit includes anybody in the UK who has bought games or DLC via the PlayStation Store from August 19th, 2016, I guess up until now. And they're saying that is around 9 million people. And they're saying here that everybody is entitled to 67 and 562 euros in damages plus interest for this length of time from 2016 until now if they purchase the DLC or they purchase a game. And the argument is seemingly around the PlayStation Store, how Sony takes a 30% cut for every single purchase, and because of that, they're saying they are ripping people off. Now, Alex Neil, who introduced this complaint, says here, the game is up for Sony PlayStation. With this legal action, I am standing up for the millions of UK people who have been unwittingly overcharged. We believe Sony has abused its position and ripped off its customers. Gaming is now the biggest entertainment industry in the UK, ahead of TV, video, and music, and many vulnerable people rely on gaming for community and connection. That statement right there, it's pretty crazy just how much gaming has grown, how it is the biggest entertainment industry. And he's right, a lot of people do rely on video games as a way to pass the time, as a hobby, to meet people. So it is extremely large and extremely important for a lot of people in their lives. Continues on here saying the actions of Sony is costing millions of people who can't afford it, particularly when we're in the midst of a cost of living crisis and the consumer purse is being squeezed like never before. And then Natasha Pearman, who is the partner leading the case, says Sony dominates the digital distribution of PlayStation games and in-game content. It has deployed an anti-competitive strategy, which has resulted in excessive prices to customers that are out of all proportion to the cost of Sony providing its services. Now, there's a lot of stuff here. I don't fully understand the extent as to how the law is going to look at this, but based off of the previous lawsuit that we saw got thrown out, I would be very, very surprised if they're able to pull this one off and win this case against Sony. I would be, again, surprised if they don't just throw this one out as well, for a couple of reasons here. They have to prove that by Sony only selling their PlayStation games via the digital store, it is monopolizing the market for those games. But we also know these games are also sold physically. Not sure if that would make any difference or not. But the other thing here is that they are claiming because they take that 30% claim and commission on those games that they sell, they are overcharging people. Now, the thing there is that if you take a look at other 30% cuts around the industry, Steam does this, Xbox does this, and the App Store does this, and Epic Games just recently lowered their commission to 12%. So this isn't the only digital storefront out there that takes a 30% cut on every purchase made. doesn't put Sony in a league of its own in that regard. But you could argue, I guess, that because they do keep their console games, their PlayStation exclusive games locked to the PlayStation platform, they haven't distributed them out really anywhere else, at least the new ones, before recently distributing some of them out onto PC, that it would monopolize the market in that sense. I think right now what Sony has been doing, which has been releasing their older first-party games that released months or years ago, is going to help them in cases like this where they can say that they are starting to push out their products to other storefronts digitally, so people have more options on where they're going to be able to play them. And when we take a look at more of an expert's view on what this could all mean. And this comes via Richard Hogue from Hogue Law and part of the legal podcast Virtual Legality. It says here, it's a tough case to bring. First, you have the issue that each individual transaction was voluntarily made at the price offered. Second, that the prices largely mirrored those across the industry at the time. Third, that the intermediary pricing, that 30% cut, was also mirrored by other market participants at the time. And that's exactly the way I think about it as well. They're going to look at this and they're going to see that the other storefronts have also done that 30% cut. And I feel like that alone is going to easily have this case dismissed. And then the first thing he mentions here, which is something we see across PlayStation in particular with a lot of their hardcore fans, is that they are literally voluntarily paying more money for games when they know that they are pretty much just getting ripped off. For example, The Last of Us remake coming out, that full $70 price tag, cash grab. They're getting ripped off with that, but they're going to voluntarily go out there and spend all of that money on those games. And when PlayStation raised their first-party games by $10, they voluntarily cheered this on and went out and purchased more and more of these games. So with that being said, a lot of this stuff has to do with just personal choice and people not really caring that PlayStation offers these games at higher prices, because PlayStation has done a masterful job marketing their products, a masterful job marketing their brand, where they have made people believe that the price increases for their games are worth it because their games are higher quality than anything else out there in the industry, and they have to raise their prices in order to be able to continue to produce this quality, which I don't believe. I think it's bullshit in the sense that they're just preying on the fact that they have these hardcore loyal fans and they could sell their games at the original $60 this generation and have no problem continuing to produce their first party PlayStation games with the same amount of quality. Continuing on here, what Hogue Law has to say, he says, fourth, that although the 30% argument mirrors Epic's in Epic v Apple, you have a lot of language in that case attempting to distinguish the console markets, though such language is not controlling and may not even be persuasive. Fifth, that there's no indication that a change to the 30% cut actually would affect the bottom line consumer facing pricing, and there's some indication that it wouldn't. See the Epic Game Store. I mean, that makes a ton of sense. They cut it down to 12%, but the games are essentially still the same price. And then six, that because the 30% was established before any market controlling position, you have an issue establishing that it was an anti-competitive price. Now, on the other side, the politics of digital pricing is very much an issue that has proven to be of interest to legislators, including in Europe. So it may be in that environment that things are more open to being re-examined from perspectives distinct from the ones I've articulated. And I agree pretty much everything what he says here. Kind of my first thoughts when I first read through this lawsuit, I was thinking there's no way that they're going to be able to prove that this is anti-competitive because other stores do it, because they've established these things way before this lawsuit went on and way before there were different market positions and controlling positions going on within the digital space of purchasing games. So I have a feeling this is going to be one of those lawsuits that everyone's going to be talking about, including myself, but it is not going to go anywhere. It is going to get thrown out. And Sony's same thing's going to happen for what happened in that previous case back in July, where they're going to have to come up with a better argument as to why what Sony is doing is anti-competitive. But that doesn't take away from all of the craziness that's been going on with Sony over the last month or so. Their true cards, if you hadn't believed it yet, are being shown as to they are pretty terrified as to what is going on in the industry. They are losing that grasp and that foothold of really being the most dominant player out there, especially with the Activision Blizzard deal coming through and it being a part of Xbox Game Studios when the deal is complete. The stuff that they said to the Brazilian competitive authorities just about how they don't think they're going to be able to compete with Call of Duty being part of Xbox Game Studios because so many people work on the game and there's no way you could ever make a competitor to it. When all of the other third parties that were asked about the deal had no issues with the deal going through. We look back at this stuff here with the Epic versus Apple court documents, and we were clearly shown that PlayStation was willing to block something that was good for the industry, and that was crossplay. Now, yes, there is crossplay now, but initially they did not want to do it, and that was because they believed that if more players were playing on the PlayStation Network, they should be compensated for that. Essentially, if they were making a certain amount of money, people weren't spending enough money within the PlayStation Network, but were using the PlayStation Network, they should be paid a royalty for that. So this was another big thing that came out in these court documents, really showing PlayStation was against some of these things that improved the overall gaming industry for the consumer. And then we look at the response that Microsoft had when the stuff came out where Sony made their statement to the Brazilian competition authority, and Microsoft responded pretty much saying that Sony pays to block rights to prevent developers from adding content to Game Pass and other competing subscription services. And we even have kind of proof of this when there was that rumor floating around that they had paid Capcom to block Resident Evil Village from getting onto Xbox Game Pass for at least a year. And not just Xbox Game Pass, but any subscription services like Xbox Game Pass, Xbox Live Gold, xCloud, Stadia Pro, and more. So all of this is coming back around to Sony. It's all kind of blowing up in their face right now as they're really trying to hold on to that massive market domination with their PlayStation Network, with their ecosystem, as there are more and more competitors now this generation that are viable, that people want to use than there were last generation with how successful the PlayStation 4 was. But Xbox and Microsoft have really done a number on it with Xbox Game Pass, opening up their ecosystem, allowing people to play anywhere that they want. And PlayStation is going to do the same. They are following in the exact footsteps as what Xbox is doing. They know they have to, but it's going to be slower and it's going to be second after Xbox, because Xbox already has a huge hold with Xbox Game Pass. And I don't foresee that ever really falling off compared to PlayStation Now, PlayStation Network, PlayStation Plus and their tiers, all of that type of stuff. And I don't foresee that really falling off anytime soon, or really even ever. I feel like Xbox Game Pass is the Netflix where, yes, they have tons of competitors, and we saw Disney Plus overtake Netflix, but that was including things like ESPN Plus and Hulu and all that type of stuff. But as the singular subscription service, the best one out there, they first out into the market, the one that offers the most value and will continue to grow, which will give consumers more value, I don't think Xbox Game Pass is going to be able to be beaten. And PlayStation knows that. And right now, they're in a weird stage where a lot of things they're trying to do is to trying to kind of slow down that ball from continuing to snowball, where Xbox Game Pass is going to get so much bigger and going to be the real leader when it comes to the video game industry. Not that PlayStation isn't going to be competitive. They are going to be competitive, and they're going to continue to grow their PlayStation Plus tiers, but they are losing the traditional market domination that they had, which was console exclusivity, pushing as many consoles as possible, and then releasing their first party software onto it. But like I said, I don't see really anything happening from this. A lot of people are going to talk about it, but I don't see them being able to prove in any way that Sony is being anti-competitive with these terms because of the things we talked about earlier in the video. But those are my thoughts on this. I could be completely wrong. What are your thoughts on this? What do you think about this lawsuit? And do you think Sony is going to lose and they are going to have to pay out the damages for what they have done with the digital marketplace on the PlayStation Network? If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that thumbs up button. If you're new here, you liked what you saw, consider hitting that subscribe button. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for your support. I'll catch you in the next video.
We'll be right back.